John Roberts mentioned earlier, South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham had a long meeting with President Trump at the White House yesterday about the crisis in northeastern Syria and other matters. He joins us tonight live from Washington. Senator, thanks. Welcome back to Special Report. Well, tell us about that meeting. We understand from reporting that you were talking about the situation. There was a call that you were also a part of with President Erdogan.
Yeah, there's a call to President Erdogan and Mazloum, the leader of the Kurdish forces that helped us destroy ISIS. The first thing I learned is that President Trump did not give Erdogan a green light. I would urge President Trump to release to the public the letter he sent to Erdogan urging him not to invade Syria. It was a very good letter. The president did not wake up one day and tell Erdogan, you can have Syria. Erdogan went into Syria against President Trump's advice and counseling, and now it's up to President Trump and the rest of us to fix it. But I blame Erdogan, not Trump.
Okay, but isn't it implied that there was a green light if the forces leave the Kurdish forces on the ground and it opens the door for the Turks to come in?
It was a mistake, I think, not to push back Carter, but the president sent a letter to Erdogan that was really a good letter, imploring him not to create a problem here. We were working with the legitimate concerns of Turkey about YPG elements they consider to be a terrorist group. They have legitimate concerns, but the solution is not Turkey invading Syria, allowing ISIS to come back and Iran to be the biggest winner. So what I hope will happen is that the relationship with Turkey is hanging by a thread, is valuable, is worth salvaging. If I were President Erdogan, I would listen to Vice President Pence. I would have a ceasefire right now and try to put this thing back together before the Kurds, who we stood by and who we owe a debt to, are hurt even more. And if there's any incursion into Kobani or around Kobani by the Turkish military, any massacres, atrocities, we're going to hold Erdogan personally accountable.
You mentioned Kobani. It's a town in northeastern Syria. Why the significance of that?
That's sort of the Washington, D.C. for the Kurds. Now, who are the Kurds? These are Syrian Kurds who helped us destroy ISIS. There were 60,000 Arabs, mostly Kurds, that went into Raqqa and took the caliphate down by ground action. We provided special forces assistance and air cover, but they died by the thousands. We owe it to them not to abandon them. If we abandon the Kurds and they have to fight Turkey, these 10,000 ISIS fighters are going to break loose, and that will be on President Trump's watch. It will be a nightmare for the country and him. If we can get Turkey to stop, get them out of Syria, we can protect the Turkish interests between the Kurds and Turkey, and we can keep Iran from coming in. What I worry about the most right now tonight is Iran is about to move in to northeastern Syria and take over the oil fields, and that would be a great boost for the Iranian economy. And I'm urging President Trump to send some American military personnel to the northeastern Syrian oil fields to protect it from an Iranian takeover.
Well, so let me just get this straight. You're supporting President Trump, but you don't like how this happened or how the process happened?
Right.
You like the letter that he sent, but not how this all unfolded?
I think it's fair criticism. For about 2 years, President Trump has been trying to create a safe zone, and I've been working with him to keep about the Kurds away from the Turkish border and Turkey away from the Kurds that helped us to destroy ISIS. Erdogan destroyed that. He lied to me 2 weeks ago. He ignored the president's counsel. He's into Syria now, and it is going to create a comeback for ISIS because the Kurds can't fight Turkey and watch the ISIS fighters, the 10,000. It's going to create an opening for Iran to come in. The Kurds cannot align with Assad. That's like aligning with Iran. So I blame Turkey, but I'm looking to President Trump to fix this. He's got a good plan. I hope Erdogan will listen to the vice president. I want a good relationship with Turkey, but I'm going to introduce sanctions next 2 days from now with Democrats that would hit Turkey hard, and I applaud President Trump's sanctions against Turkey. They're really tough, and they're not coming off until Turkey stops this war.
You know, there's another Republican senator who supports the president, but in a different way. He supports the end to endless wars. That is Senator Rand Paul. Take a listen.
Lindsey Graham's been wrong about almost every foreign policy decision of the last 2 decades. He was wrong about the Iraq War. The Iraq War was a mistake and made Iran stronger, allowed more chaos, more instability, and more terrorism. He was wrong about the war in Libya. It led to more chaos and more terrorism. He's wrong about this.
Senator Paul was obviously asked about your comments about the situation.
Just forget about General Paul and General Graham. How about listening to actual generals? I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan 56 times. I've been to Syria twice since last year. I think I have an informed opinion, but forget about me. Our military is telling President Trump that if we abandon the Kurds, nobody will help us in the future. Without the Kurds, Raqqa would still be occupied by ISIS. If we give the oil fields to Iran, it will undercut our maximum pressure campaign. Senator Paul is an avowed libertarian. I respect his point of view, but I think it's dangerous. If we abandon the Kurds, who's going to help us in the future? And the last thing we want is another front against Israel. Israel is worried, as I speak tonight, about Iran coming into Syria and getting the oil fields and being more powerful.
I want to ask you two more things. One is, did you hear the Hunter Biden interview or pieces of it? And what did you make of his kind of explanation for, I made a mistake on the appearances but didn't do anything wrong, and he knows he gets jobs because his name is Biden?
Well, I think this is a defining moment in the Biden campaign. Joe Biden is truly a friend. He's lost 2 children and a wife, I guess 3 children now. He's had a tragic life. I think he's a good man, but what Hunter Biden did was wrong at every level. If a Republican had done the same thing, it'd be front-page news all over the world. I've asked Rudy Giuliani to come before our Senate Judiciary Committee to talk about corruption in the Ukraine. And if he does come and he does tell us, then we'll look at calling Hunter Biden.
He's ignoring subpoenas now.
Well, that's up to Rudy.
But he says he's going to ignore the subpoenas on the House.
Here's what I think. I think what Hunter Biden did does not pass the smell test. It should be looked at. When Horowitz tells us about the FISA warrant and the counterintelligence investigation against the Trump campaign, I hope somebody will pay attention.
All right, one last question. That is about former National Security Advisor John Bolton. And the New York Times says Mr. Bolton got into a tense exchange on July 10th with Gordon Sunderland, who was working with Rudy Giuliani to press Ukraine to investigate Democrats. I'm not a part of whatever drug deal Sunderland and Mulvaney are cooking out, Mr. Bolton told Ms. Hill, who testified. Giuliani is a hand grenade who's going to blow everybody up. Ms. Hill quoted Mr. Bolton as saying during an earlier conversation. What do you make of this and all the testimony that's happening on Capitol Hill?
You know, I really don't know what Rudy was up to, but I think it was legitimate for President Trump to raise corruption in the Ukraine with the newly elected Ukrainian president. We give him like $400 million. The transcript of the phone call I am okay with. Matter of fact, I thought it was an excellent phone call by President Trump. And I want to say this to Speaker of the House Pelosi. If you impeach President Trump based on this phone call transcript, it is dead on arrival in the Senate. I'm trying to get a letter together with the Republican senators telling Speaker Pelosi that any impeachment article based on this phone call will not fly in the Senate. Look at what Rudy did, but I've seen no evidence at all that President Trump has done anything wrong.
Senator Lindsey Graham in Washington. Senator, thanks for the time.
Thank you.